So, hi Mark,
Hello.
it's a real pleasure to interview you for Studio International in your exhibition in the London Mithraeum, which is called Room with All Existing Words. This is a very unique location in the middle of the city of London, surrounded by Roman ruins. And your sculptures themselves often have this look of an archaeological object. And I'm wondering, is this a dream come true for you to be asked to exhibit here?
No, for me it's really special to show my work here in this really fascinating context. I like that this space is really direct on the street and connected to the life of like now in London. But that if you go downstairs, you really go back in time and you see this temple, like it's maybe 7 meters underground here. It really makes you realize that we add layers and layers and layers, and that if you want to go back in time, you really have to go down underground, and it's and you also have the feeling that you go 7 meters down, you see this temple, but you also feel that there's more under London, like everywhere here. So for me, that's really a very interesting context to show my work. And I also like that if you enter the museum here, you see these artifacts, these daily objects. So I wanted to make my show very simple, with only 3 things that relate to this temple and to these objects. I was born in Holland, and it should have been made in Holland in the 1920s. It's like a modernistic composition, but then I made many mistakes in it. But combined, it's a very precise, good composition. But I really like that the 3 objects in the show, they're also all about gravity. I like this idea that the temple is down here, and so this part is really like levitating here. It's really it feels like it can fall every moment. And then the postcards also they are a little bit lifted, and then the newspapers really hang like melancholic things. They hang down it's all about gravity.
It looks a little bit from here like a temple and like a combination of a head in a building.
Yeah, it feels like a building and but it also feels really, really fragile and it feels also very frozen, and you don't know when it was made. What is for me interesting is that you also can see that a person made this. You can see the hands. It's really like an object that is left behind.
Yeah, there's always in your work that intriguing tension between the human touch and at the same time something really monumental and almost timeless. And your work deals a lot with, you've spoken before about being really intrigued by timelessness and stillness.
Maybe the main reason why I'm really, really, really like art and like to make objects is that once you made an object and once it's really frozen in time, but what is more interesting even is that you grow older, and that this thing stays the same, and that you kind of share your life with an object that stays the same, and I really like that.
I've heard you say before that concept of frozen thought, and your work is really related to the human mind and our thinking and language. And your show at Voor Linden in the Netherlands called Mind Study. And I'm actually wondering going a little bit back to that interest in the mind and in language, what made you decide to become an artist and not, for example, a psychologist or a linguist?
When I was around 16, 17, I became really interested in really the human mind, and also was very interested about why humans make objects and why we need religion, and how we make language and I really wanted to investigate that, and then I thought it was more logical to, if you investigate the human mind, to investigate your own mind. Not because of that I'm interesting or but more that in a way it's almost the only thing that you can do, to think because and then at the same time my plan was to become a writer, and I decided to write in first person, because that's I think that's if you read something and you read something in first person, that's the most beautiful thing, I think, that you can think together with somebody else, you know, and especially if that somebody else is also like a fictional character that is made to touch something that is important, and then when I started, I became more and more interested in objects, and then I decided to write with objects instead of words, and I decided to create like a large building that is frozen in time and that you can walk through, but that is also like almost like a three-dimensional book, and it's like a giant stage set where you can see somebody living or thinking and acting and.
So it's almost, I mean, I think this work actually is a perfect example of that idea. I think you called it self-portrait as a building.
Self-portrait as a building, yeah.
And you keep adding to it as long as you make art.
Like here you have like 3 objects that relate to this temple.
Yeah.
But I also, if I make larger exhibitions, some rooms are like living rooms, and then you enter like a studios, and like the rooms are very like it's very it's like a combination of abandoned rooms that you can visit, and you can really read somebody's minds, you know.
So if we're thinking about spatiality, because there is a lot of sculpture in itself is a spatial construct. We walk around it, it responds to the space. But what I'm sensing is that your life work is a mental space more than a physical space.
Yeah.
And that actually brings me to a related question. How did you consider, I know in terms of symbolic value, you considered the temple and the position of this exhibition space. Did you look at the dimensions of the room? I know sometimes you have objects that are at a slightly smaller scale, and did you use that construct here?
Yeah. Sometimes I make exhibitions on 88%. So if you visit these rooms, they're like everything is smaller than reality, and it's like entering like a three-dimensional photograph. But I think in this case, I really like that it's like everything is on 100%. I like the relationship with the real objects here. But then, for example, this piece, I wanted to make something that is big and small at the same time. Like if you stand before it, it feels both small and big at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. Yeah. And it has something like, the size of a sculpture can be so important. You really can you can really change the way your body reacts to a sculpture, and that's for me very interesting.
Yeah, and
but it's difficult to explain.
Yeah.
But that's really part of the language of sculpture.
There's sort of there's a lot of different things that play together in your work, and I've spoken about the tension between the monumental and the more intimate, but there's also the tension between the human hand and something that's maybe timeless and has been there forever. But another tension is with the look, the visuals of the materials you use.
Everything is cast, so nothing what you see here is real. It's like it's actually like a three-dimensional painting. It's like like nothing what you see here is like the actual material. It's in a way an illusion, yeah. Of course,
and
yeah.
If you think about that concept more deeply, what is it that interested you in? I wouldn't say deceiving the audience, because that sounds malicious, but in playing around with people's expectations. What fascinates you, and where does it come from?
Yeah, but it's also something else. Like you know, this work looks really fragile, but the original of this work was really fragile. Like if when this piece was in my studio when I made it, like. You know, if I touch it there, it would collapse. You know, it was really fragile. So it was like very complicated to cast it. It's not something that you can keep in time, and that's something that I really wanted to do. I wanted to capture a moment that is not possible to keep, and I have the feeling that if you stand before the speech, you still feel the fragility of the work, but it's not fragile. It's like really. And what I also like is that in my work I feel also a little bit like a time traveler. So sometimes I make a work that should be made in the 1920s, or sometimes I make a work that could be made 5,000 years ago, or and at the same time I make everyday objects that are, and the combination is like they really fit in the same time frame. They all exist at the same moment, and if all these objects that I make, they also function like words, and I can combine them in different ways. With I can also combine this work and that work and that work with other works and then they will be very, very different. It's like words in a sentence.
Yeah.
That if you change the order, it can be something totally else.
You once give an example about how our minds work in a very interesting way. For example, I heard you talk about trees, and we see trees and we don't register how many trees there are. Mm-hmm. Our mind just has this direct thought, or it's not even a conscious thought of tree. And do you see your work as some sort of shortcut, something that's actually making something visible that is not really almost visible?
Yeah, that's for example, so in this show there's a newspaper with all existing words, but I also made a newspaper with only one subject, only fives. So it's a newspaper with only fives. So everything in the newspaper is like 5-letter words and like photographs of fives, and I wanted to try if you could really make a newspaper by saying only 5, and that you can create something really poetic by only repeating 5s, and was really fascinating to experience that you can do that, and that gave me also another idea, like so you have this newspaper with all existing words, and I took one word out of these all existing words, and I changed the meaning of this word in reality.
And what was the word?
It's the word skypod. Yeah, so a skypod is like a mythical figure that has only one leg and a big foot, and he uses his foot as an umbrella against the sun, and like most skypods hold a leg like really like a thing, like an object, and but also a little bit like as if this part of the body is like a strange object, it's a very strange myth, and it's very strange that we as humans created this myth, and it's very strange that also people really believed in it, like maybe 500 years ago. So that gave me like something really interesting to think about. So I decided to become the worldwide specialist of this single word, and I also decided to add skypods to and add like a fictional history of this word, and so I made like a fake Wikipedia page, and also the real Wikipedia page is faked. Yeah. So now it's really difficult to know what is real or not real about this word, and I made classrooms about skypods. I wrote a book about skypods.
Sounds almost like fake news.
It's like but the most interesting thing is that it's possible to create like a fake history that has many interesting aspects, and also although it's not real, it touches some very interesting aspects of our mind. Yeah. And so I also can give lectures about skypods. I can, and I also made a book where I can make it disappear again, because I felt kind of guilty that Now, guilty is not a good word, but I think it was also good if you add things to the world that are not real, that you also take them out again. Of course, it's not possible, but I made a book where the skypods disappear again, all these fake images.
Yeah.
And for me, a very interesting project.
Yeah.
And that's only just one word from this all existing words.
Yeah. So there's almost something about the macro and the micro.
Yeah.
And again, I'm getting this intrigue that your work brings up, but I think it's also this interest in the impossibility of language or the shortcomings of the human mind.
It's like you can see the like fragility of the human mind, because this whole this whole skypod project is also kind of it's like it's almost like a psychotic thing, almost like but it's also fake.
Yeah.
And it's very, very interesting to be on this edge.
Yeah.
And but it's also at the same time it's also a poem that is made of only one word. But it's not a poem in a book, but it's a poem like a little bit on the internet, a little bit in an installation, a little bit like in a book. It's a poem that has different places in the
context.
And that is very interesting, I think.
So it's also really hard to classify your work as figurative or abstract. I feel it's almost the only word I could think of is conceptual, but there are figurative elements and more abstract elements. But I'm wondering about these large heads, because they are a constant occurrence and they are almost androgynous. I'm also wondering, are they inspired by a real human
No, they're never real humans, but they're like real, like they're more like an idea of a human head, and they're never portraits, and I also try to make them in a way that you they also don't belong to a certain culture. It's really made like a cannibal. It's like they come from everywhere. It's like very like and it's also something that I cannot escape from, because that's something very strange. Like, for example, in the Vollen show, there's like a dog that I made, I think on art school in 1992, and it feels really like that I could make it also like now. You know, my language didn't change in all these years. It's like the things that I made then exactly fit with my work now. There's no.
There's variations on that.
Yeah, and it's I don't know how that works. It's something that I cannot escape. It's just like that's.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's fascinating.
When
I think about maybe the family or you come from, I'm sort of picturing an intellectual family with a lot of discussion around the dinner table. But I'm wondering what were your parents like, and where did your interest?
I come from a small village.
Yeah.
My father is a carpenter, still is, and my mother was like a housekeeper, and like there were no discussions, there was no art, no books, nothing.
Okay.
Like, but it's also because my parents they couldn't study because of the time that they grew up. But they could have studied, but there was no. They had bad luck, and but they were also like very. I learned really a lot from my parents, but in a different way, and so I'm very grateful for that. Like, there's one thing that really was very important for me. It was like I saw a book with late paintings from Picasso, and I was really fascinated that you could look back in time, that you could see all these decisions that he made while painting this, and that these brush strokes together were like really frozen in one in this painting. And at the same time, I also saw in a book paintings from Lucas Cranach, and you couldn't see gestures, but also these images were also like really frozen in time. And in my work I combine these two things, like these two different ways of freezing time.
Yeah.
And so that was really of a big influence to see some images of these two artists.
Yeah.
Because I never saw them in reality, like because like in the place where I grew up, there was no art, you know.
No.
It was by chance that I saw these images.
Then another thing that strikes me is the absence often of color, and I'm wondering where does that come from?
In my work, I have a lot of rules, and well, it's very simple. For example, if I have to make a newspaper, it has to be it's like a newspaper has the color of a newspaper, and if I make a bathtub is white. It all comes from language. I cannot. I'm not allowed to choose color. So I choose the you know, if there's a postcard on the concrete floor, so it's gray. I cannot. So sometimes I can find tricks to go next to the wool, and then I suddenly can use color. But I really have to do a lot of effort to do that. And it's because I in a way I'm still a writer. For example, now in the museum in Volende, there's like a work that I made many years ago. It's like a floor with a bathtub, and the bathtub is white, and then there's a figure of clay, and yeah, clay is clay color, of course, huh? And then in the bathtub there is like also clay, and then there were like 4 towels placed in this bathroom, but the towel doesn't have a color. So it was for me like a way of choosing colors.
Yeah.
So I could choose like a blue towel, a yellow towel, and a green one, and it's really because towels don't have one color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wanted to read 2 things to you, actually, maybe to conclude the interview. The first one is something that the director of For Linden wrote, Suzanne Swartz, which I really like, and I'm wondering what your reaction is, because of course your work is very elemental, sort of, it plays directly to our brains, and I'm wondering what your reaction is when people use a certain language to describe it. But she said, the enigmatic work of Mark Manders is surrounded by a veil of estrangement. You can't reach it, but it stays with you.
Well, maybe that's also something like that these images can stay with you. That's something really magical. That we as humans can make objects, and if you see them only one time, they can stick in your head, and you can think about it 20 years later. You still can, and that's something really interesting, that we evolved in that way, that we created this area where you can put objects, and if you put objects in that area, you look at these objects differently, like because it's a work of art, and they really can find this place in your head, and that's something so beautiful and so magical. I really believe in the power of art and of sculpture and and it's also really fantastic that although it was not meant as an artwork, but that we are still thinking about this person who put his hand in a cave on a wall and then just painted something around it, and then left, and we can still see that this person was there, and it's so magical and it's so beautiful and so poetic, and so I'm very grateful that I have the same job as that person. Maybe more showing gratefulness that you are alive, and that you have the opportunity to freeze things and really share these things together with other people that are also alive now and also later.
Yeah. Maybe to end, I found this beautiful quote, and maybe you can help me from which book it is. I will read your quote, and it's actually about the heads and the verticals. And I will ask a question about it after. The quote says, if you lose someone, really lose someone, you can take the loss and stretch it until it forms a long vertical. If you then freeze that into silence, the loss changes into something beautiful that lingers. This is incredibly poetic, and I'm wondering, are you ever seeing yourself as using words and making a book of poetry, for example? Because poetry can do that same thing that art can do, which is connect words in new ways.
Yeah, so that little piece I wrote about a work when I finished it. Well, it took me many years to make. It looks like it was just, but it was like a very slow process. I always describe myself as a failed writer because I don't really write. I only write things about my work sometimes because I think that's healthy. But I wrote a book like a poetry book once, and I have the feeling I could write another one. Yeah. But I also have to do other things. I don't have time to do everything. But I always have the feeling that I could do it, and but I also like that that I don't do it, and that I find that that I have to.
You found your own.
Yeah, find my, that I follow my maybe strange route to write a poem with only one word about skypods. Just repeating or like make a newspaper with only fives. It's like.
You keep it surprising to
yourself.
Yeah,
so it's I'm still a poet, but I'm really writing with objects.
Yeah.
And that's enough.